Can we get a verbal? We're ready? Thank you. Good afternoon. The special council meeting on the capital 2025 budget discussion for Thursday, November the 21st, 2024, of the Township of Selwyn will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in our minutes. We have no minutes to go through, no deputations. Were there any questions that were brought forward? Madam Clerk.
No questions.
Thank you. So we will go to our treasurer, Elaine Vance, to give us our 2025 capital budget. Elaine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to Council for holding a special meeting today to consider the capital budget. Presentation will follow along in the same format as the package that was circulated to Council. And so, as in other years, I think it's good if I just kind of pause as we go through each section. Definitely welcome questions as we go, and hoping this can be interactive like it has been in prior years. I received a couple of questions, a clarification from members of council, but definitely encourage any additional questions as we work through. And we've got the majority of our management team here to respond and provide any additional information as required. My clicker is frozen. Thank you. Yeah, so this is a familiar slide to council, this format. It's the budget cycle for 2025. So council approved our timeline in August of this year. Since that time, the department managers have been working away on various aspects of the 2025 budget. And yeah, we're at the capital presentation today. We'll be back before council in December, and we'll be going through other impacts in addition to capital, some of the other things that will be challenging. And then, of course, we'll be bringing back operational departmental work plans as well at that meeting. Okay, so the summary budget worksheet is always a good one-page overview. That's the one that's on the ledger paper if you were to open it up. Overall, this year, capital is proposed to be about $3.7 million. There is some additional studies and consulting work of about $56,000. And then we have a section at the bottom about pending projects. And so those projects are either reliant on some conditional grant applications and things like that that we have outstanding, or on other council direction that's still to be received. So a good example of that would be, say, the link. So we have the link presentation coming up in, I think, the next council meeting. So we haven't got any formal presentation on that yet, or formal direction yet on that. So that would be an example, and that's why it's down in the pending area. When you add all those together, it's about $4.2 million in terms of the possible capital program. But definitely those pending projects at this point aren't what we would consider in the budget. So we'll just dive into some of the department-specific capital programs. Typical investments in general government, just in terms of office furniture, technology. We have our 5-year technology replacement schedule included. And as you can see, we're proposing a small increase in our contribution to reserves just to keep abreast of the increasing costs as we go through. There are a couple of special capital projects for IT in 2025, and that will carry on into future years. One is remote site connectivity. So as fiber gets dispersed throughout our township, we have some of our sites that will now be able to make use of VoIP. And so we should be able to do away with some of our phone lines and reach out a little bit more through remote site connectivity. Hopefully that will save some operational dollars down the road. And the other is a multi-year project with respect to our website, as outlined in the working sheet. eSolutions, which was a website provider for many municipalities, was purchased by GHD Digital, and then as is typical when that type of thing happens, then typically the new company will look at implementing a new platform and moving ahead with a new package. So website migration would begin in 2025. It would get the majority of the content moved over to the new format, but it's likely that the new website would come in future years. Moving on to facilities. A couple that we're just highlighting here on the slide. One is the parking lot here at 1310. So it's proposed to have a small expansion down kind of out in the far corner. Definitely needs some asphalt maintenance in a few spots on the parking lot. And then generally resealing the asphalt so that we can get maybe 5 or 6 more years out of it before we have to do anything else major. It should also just provide a general refresh to the parking lot, and then we'll be able to go through and do some additional line painting as well. And so as council would be aware, on council days in particular, when we have a full staff complement council and then maybe deputations, we're pretty stretched for parking. So Adam's been able to work with his guys to maybe pick us up a few spots out there. The other project.
Excuse me, I've got a question here from Deputy Mayor Black.
Sorry, Mayor, do you want us to ask questions as we go through each section or?
Yeah.
Okay. I just noticed here, and I don't know how technical this map is, but it does go into the wetland in the one corner. Is that going to be a problem for us? The bottom corner of the parking area I don't know if that's protected area already or through zoning or whatever.
Yeah, I can't actually speak to that. I'm sure that we'll do a little bit more detailed site review before we lay anything out. This is a little bit of a schematic, but yeah,
I'm not sure how accurate this is as far as.
Yeah, we'll definitely have regard for that. Well, Robert may actually have some comment there.
For you, Mayor Sennis, that color on the county GIS is unevaluated wetlands, so it's not even confirmed that there's a wetland there. So that would need to be looked at, but it's much different than if it was a provincially significant wetland there. It may not be an issue at all.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for that question.
Thank you.
The other photo on the slide deck is with respect to the Ennismore Arena floor replacement. This will be a significant project in 2026, but in 2025 we would start the design and tendering processes. And as outlined on the capital worksheet and in my cover report, REC staff are proposing to sole source an engineering firm for this work, a firm that's been used locally and actually quite a bit just throughout central Ontario. They've got very good reviews on a number of local arena upgrades, and they definitely seem to be the only game in town in terms of anybody that you talk to. So that's being recommended at this point as part of the report as well.
I have a question here from Councillor Koulis.
Thank you. This is more just a question of the timing and process between tender and then actually carrying out the work in 2026. I know Mike's not here to speak to this, but how is this going to impact the use of the arena? Like, is it going to be shut down for a significant amount of time in 2026 to redo the floor? And if so, who is going to be impacted?
Yeah, so I can speak to that because I did have some general discussions with Mike. Definitely the arena would be closed, possibly some rentals upstairs because that shouldn't be impacted. But if I can go back to the example at Lakeville Smith Community Center, the entire arena floor was out of commission. So the goal would be as soon as we can take the ice out, get the contractor in. From that point on, it's all hands on deck to try to get it done so that we can put the ice back in a timely manner in the fall. But yeah, it would be basically off limits for the summer.
Thank you.
And we do have an application in for a grant for this project because it's a very expensive one. So keep our fingers crossed that they treat us favorably.
Yes. Okay, moving on to more municipal facilities work. Council will recall last year, council endorsed the approach of using Ontario Municipal Partnership Funds to support our facility capital maintenance program. We had just received that. We were doing some review and we were changing some staffing around at that point in time. And so last year we brought forward a number of projects through budget amendment because we didn't have it really available at this time. But we've had 2024 to work at it. So in 2025, staff have had a chance to review the schedule of repairs as outlined by the architect. And they've been able to bundle a number of projects together in project bundles. And so they're outlined here in the capital sheets. These are not necessarily super high profile, great things to get photo ops with, weatherproofing and caulking, things like that, putting in bollards under health and safety, but they're all necessary works. We're being very systematic in our approach and how we look at these overall repairs. Over the course of 10 years, capital maintenance items total a little over $8.7 million. So it's not insignificant, but definitely need to take some adjustments on that. So we looked at the Ennismore floor replacement, took that out, proposed expansions of the Memorial Hall or Lakefield Library. So that's in that 10-year window, but we adjusted for those too. But the adjusted repair total is still $4.9 million. So it's a big number. And so we want to have a really solid and well thought out approach to the program. So as you can imagine, we're trying to deal with the big ticket items, trying to deal with roofs, HVAC systems, vapor barrier, those types of things. So we want to make sure that the leaks are stopped and anything like that. And then we would carry on with any of the cosmetic work, ceiling tiles, painting of utility areas, things like that.
Question here from Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor. Just looking at the energy projects in particular, are there any green grants? Some of this looks like it's upgrading to maybe heat pumps or that sort of thing. Are we going after any grants for some of this capital?
I do know that Mike and Jerry are looking at some of those things. The one example specifically was more to do with LED lighting and some of those types of things. So yeah, they are definitely looking into that, and Mike and Jerry and Megan LaRock and Angie's department are reviewing grants all the time for that type of stuff. Yeah.
Follow up there?
Yeah.
One of the challenges that we've had at the county is the number of projects that continually roll over year because we don't have time, staff to get them done. I'm just wondering, are we biting off too much in 1 year, or do you think this is really a doable piece of work for all the 4 different projects you've got listed here in 1 year?
Yeah, I think how Mike's looked at it in putting together those themed bundles. So caulking, for instance, we would put an RFP out for that and look at all facilities, right? And I say RFP because in some instances, we're not the experts in how that should be sealed up, right? So put that out and get the experts in the industry and their proposal of what it should be. So a lot of this work would be contract work. I think it's a matter of getting those RFPs together when we have the time to do that and then get them out in a timely manner. So any of those delays, I think, are because we haven't kind of did the work up front to get it out in the market early enough.
Follow up to
Just
the follow-up.
Follow up to the follow-up. Promise this is my last follow-up. Can any of these projects be time and material as opposed to an RFP? Because RFPs take time to put together, and sometimes I don't, particularly with caulking, I don't know how you assess how much that would be and how much has to be done. And like you said, we're not experts to come in and say, well, that door needs to be done, but that one doesn't need to be done. It's really complicated. Like it's in particular multiple facilities, like, are we allowed to do that, number one, without going out to a tender type situation or?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the big issue is typically dollar value.
Right.
And in this instance, if we could put together a very clear specification, and then a tender would be the way to go.
Right.
The RFP provides a little bit more flexibility, but we still need to have good comparables when we're receiving bids. We may find that in the approach that Mike and Jerry put together, there are certain basic requirements at the buildings. And then over and above that, quite often in our RFP, we'll have a time and material section at the
Right.
bottom. So I think that just through some of those discussions, maybe that might get fleshed out a little bit more. Also, sometimes we have mandatory site meetings and sometimes they're non-mandatory. And so this might be the type of thing where we'd say, no, we need you to come and actually go through with Jerry, visit every site and take a look.
Take a look at each.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was all I was going to mention with respect to facilities. Just move on to community development. So we have two sign projects under community development. One is a carryover project for the Youngs Point signage from 2024. Things are underway on the sign. We've got the layout, everything's fine. We're just waiting for an MTO permit. So a couple of conflicting comments back on the MTO. So we're just trying to get our ducks in a line with the MTO permits, and then we can proceed on that. The other photo on the slide is one of the two village entrance signs in Lakefield that's owned by the township, which have deteriorated over the years. And this would have been before council, I think, before. There is some community interest in supporting either financially or maybe through donation of materials and talents to support the rejuvenation of these two signs.
Deputy Mayor Black, we should have started this morning if we're gonna do this with every single, okay?
Simple questions, simple questions.
I know,
Well,
but
we're-
it's for everyone.
We have,
So, Mark,
John and I have meetings at 3:30, so we'll be done before.
oh, okay, good.
3:30 and then 4 and then 6, so.
Mhm.
The Youngs Point sign, where will it land? Because the bridge is there. Will it be on our side of the bridge or will it land on where Youngs Point really starts, which is
Yeah.
the Duro side of the bridge?
Angie's coordinating that project, so I'll just let Angie talk about that.
Yeah, it'll be right at the intersection of Nathaway and Highway 28 at the lights.
Yeah.
And it would be on the north, I don't know, east side.
East side, yeah, going the Nathaway side.
The
Or-
Nathaway side.
into-
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's the proposed location.
Okay, thank you.
Glad to see the apostrophes there.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to fire service. So we'll have a bit of discussion here. I would expect we've got some significant expenditures and a different approach that we're taking. So first of all, I just wanted to thank Gordon and his senior team for reviewing the schedule in detail and ensuring that all of the expenses were basically updated. We've taken a hard look at the expenses, and then it has been escalated over the 10-year period. It's kind of a CPI that's been added along there. They've reviewed possible configuration types and changes that could be made and how the various pieces of apparatus will actually be used in service. So we've developed a plan for Selwyn that should carry us through till 2030. As council would see, there is a bit of a blip midway through when we are replacing the SCBA equipment. But there could be possible other funding that would come in there at that point, or maybe we have to use some additional reserve or UMP money. But overall, I think, we've had these discussions. The fire departments in Peterborough County are all facing the same challenges, and we'll all need to work together and review their approach for providing service throughout the county, since these costs are affecting everybody. So this isn't just a type of thing that we're seeing here in Selwyn. With respect to the slide, you can see that's the pumper that's to be replaced, 51. I think council would be aware, but as soon as we replace more or less the oldest pumper, then that begins a shift of the other pumpers throughout the other halls and a renumbering of them. And so just because pump 51 is being replaced, it doesn't mean that the brand new pumper will go to hall 5. It'll probably go to hall 1 or hall 2 and get things shuttled around that way. So we try to ensure that the halls that have high volumes receive the newer equipment, and the crew has understood that over the last few decades and kind of continue along that way. Car 2, which is the top pickup on the slide, that's actually, or sorry, car 1 is the chief's vehicle, but then it's a high miler, so we get it replaced, and then we push that one down to be car 2 or car 3, however that's going to work. Then car 3 would actually go out the door. The other pickup is brush unit 2 for fighting brush fires. It would be replaced, and then the one that's in the picture would go out the door for trade-in value. So like they're maximizing their equipment throughout the department, and then realizing that at a certain point when the useful life is done, we trade it in for best value. And then the other comment there is to ensure that we're keeping not only up to date on our bunker gear, but that we have sufficient backup supplies when we need to take them out of service for cleaning or testing, increasing the annual allotment there from 15 to 18. Once again, not just a simple decision, but taking a look at, the ability to replace them, standard sizes, things like that, because it's each of the pieces of PPE is very integral to that particular firefighter that's using it.
Question from Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor. So part of this is also buying equipment, cleaning equipment for the bunker gear. Would that reduce the requirement for the number of sets? Because I don't know how long they're out when they're being cleaned, if it takes 2 weeks for them to come back, or would that help reduce the need to increase the number from 15 to 18?
Yeah, so that's down in our pending area. We don't yet know whether we're going to be successful in getting that grant or not. So we're trying not to presuppose that. I do know that having adequate PPE in stock all the time is a challenge for the fire department. I don't know, Gord, if you wanted to chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Sen. So yeah, so it's been an ongoing battle, try to keep enough. You might lose 1 or 2 a year that doesn't retest,
Right.
or it's non-fixable. Right now, we're down enough that if we had a major fire right now, you're usually looking at probably 10, 15 pieces of suits going out to get cleaned. So we do take them, pick them up. So one good thing is there's a company that's starting up that's in Bowmanville, so it's a lot closer. So I actually just come back this morning from the chief's annual, and so talking, and one thing that's good is boots and helmets and that, the smaller stuff is not necessarily need to be changed out after every 10 years. So that's going to save a little bit. And actually talking with some of the chiefs that are, they're looking for they're getting new trucks in. Their older trucks are going north, and they're putting them on gov deals. They're getting huge returns on the used trucks that are, say, heading to the NPT places up north and through Canada that way. So that might be a little bit of a savings here too, knock some money off. So
Yeah, when I was we were at conference in the fall, I think the fire marshal, which one was it, Amo? Solicitor General was there, and I asked a question about why they have to automatically be replaced every 10 years. He said they were looking at that, so hopefully that's something that's come back and said some of those hard goods don't need to be.
a lot of this is through NFPA.
Yeah.
Ron, it's strictly, and they were pretty adamant that the bunker gear, like the pants and the suit, every 10 years, but everything else, if it stays standard or that looks good.
Yeah. And
you go through it with a fine tooth comb, no cracks and stuff. So be able to extend that a little bit, which is huge. Like a helmet now is damn near $400. It's huge money. So
Yeah.
Sure, nothing FIRE spells expensive. So
Just follow-up question for Lane on the additional capital levy. So that's a 2%. The 175 represents 2% this year. And that's the start. Budget goes on top of that.
Thank you. That we're still going through a review of our fleet. This now shifts so that every 3 years we get UMP money, $250,000. And then we switch it back over to the fleet and then we do that again. So we've been able to put together a replacement schedule that may allow this to work. And then, yeah, to Deputy Mayor Black's comment, a new proposed capital levy of roughly 2% or $175,000 funded from taxes. And that would be a dedicated to the fire capital. The other part that you would see is on the actual schedule is that 175 would then be indexed annually as well. So it's just, maybe it's 2.5%, whatever the CPI would be, we would increase that amount as well to keep current. So really with those actions, we have kind of taken that replacement schedule, turned it around and made it something that's reasonable that we think we can work with. And as I mentioned, we do have that little blip in 2030. But at this point, everything else starts to come in line. And in addition, the senior staff at the department have suggested that once we get a few pumper replacements in of a little bit different configuration, and I think that would happen maybe like 2028, somewhere along there, 2029. They'll review and possibly amend the style of some of the fire rescue units as well. So they might be able to get a smaller type rescue, which would maybe save us some money there. So you look at all of that. The question came up about the PPE cleaning and testing. So yeah, we're increasing to 18, but maybe if we do get that and with Gord's comments about some of the changes, maybe they can come back down from 18 to 15. So we start to see a replacement schedule for all of the apparatus and equipment that's a little bit more realistic. But for sure, it's a kind of a three-pronged approach, some additional reserve dollars, UMP dollars going in periodically, and the big one is the proposed capital levy that would be implemented this year.
So just before you ask another question, that 2% that would be put aside, if council agrees to have that go forward, as is in this draft budget, it would be looked at with a consolidated budget of the operations in February. And if it was found that the rate that we were being shown would be needed, would be higher, that 2% could be evaluated and lowered, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, this budget presentation and the package itself and what we're hoping to get out of today is that we would take this package and be able to incorporate it in the consolidated budget package when we present it to council. Yeah, if I knew that other number, I would let you know. I just know it's going to be a high one. And by doing it this way, we could very clearly dedicate funding to the fire department, take care of the capital issues, and then deal with operations separately. I will say that, if you start chipping away at say the 2%, it just makes this picture look worse, right? So that is something to just temper those comments with when we look at it in February, but definitely anything like that's open until we consider the consolidated budget.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, through Mayor. Yeah, so yeah, in the absence of seeing the operating number, the 2% placeholder is fine. I mean, I think it makes sense at this point to start there. So question on your notes that you sent to Councillor Boyko, the $25,000 that's coming from the ops budget because of the call volume. We think call volumes are gonna be down with the new call procedure.
Um,
and so-
I'm sorry, I'm not aware, and I don't know if the rest of council's aware of what you're talking about.
What's the I thought everybody on council got. the-
No,
Mm.
no,
Okay,
so I
sorry.
don't know that it's fair to
I-
even
I could
have the
I
discussion.
could update on it. It is at $25,000, and where did that come from, right? So while we would like to say it would come from reduced call volumes, I can't really say that at this point in time until we get the full year in. So at this point, it would be an additional contribution to reserve that could be $25,000 of new spend in the operations budget.
Okay.
If we can somehow throughout Department 10, look at other savings and things like that, then yeah, maybe it wouldn't have to be an incremental increase of 25, but I guess what I'm saying on this analysis is that we need to put at least $25,000 more into reserve out of that department. And so if we can find it through savings, great. But if not, then that would be one of the impacts that I'd be presenting to council in February.
Yeah, because we're already seeing a drop in call volume, and I think that will get better over time, obviously. So I thought that's maybe where that number came from, moving it over a year end or whatever to reserves.
Yeah, I can't just carte blanche say that at this point.
No, I know.
We definitely have,
That's the idea, though.
yeah, definitely have seen call volume
Okay.
benefits with respect more to motor vehicle or accidents, I think more to, medical calls, I mean.
Yeah.
That type
There are
of thing,
medical
yeah.
calls now,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, not MVAs, but medical calls. Yeah.
And my last question
Mhm.
for this page, is the OMFF periodic contributions for 28, 29, and 30 aren't there. Did I read something different or elsewhere in this budget that says why they're not there?
They
think I
would
did, but-
ideally be showing up over in Department 22.
Okay.
So they've always been in Department 22. So what we've kind of outlined here to say, here's 3 years, and then for the next 3, they go over to the fleet, and until we kind of get a good handle on operational costs, replacement, and we always remain hopeful that some of these market prices may come back down again. But yeah, the other 3 years would be going over there, and same with the last year, 2034.
Right,
That would just start a 3-year cycle over
it's
to
just a
public
normal
works.
rotation.
Yeah. Well, no, this would start that rotation.
Oh, that's what started the
Yeah,
rotation.
yeah.
That wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So just, just for council's information too. So come next March, CAC will be changing to the new Ontario, new way they're going to, instead of code 4s and 3s, there'll be about 2,000 different ones. So hopefully once this starts, and I think again, as all municipalities will be sitting down, tiered response and looking hard at that, but that may decrease some of our medical calls again, hopefully a lot. So when we go to the MDPS system, so I'm hoping. So
Lane,
Okay, we don't have a slide for Department 14, but that's included in council's package. No purchases are planned in Robert's department this year for building or bylaw. We have chatted, and there are some of the EVs, the hybrids are being maximized a little bit more. If they're not just sitting in the parking lot, some of the other departments are able to make use of those, and so we're tracking that as well. And so we just need to take a look at some of those replacement values, the useful life, and it's really early days for us on the hybrid EVs to see how long things are lasting there. But taking a look at that replacement schedule, things look good, and there's no proposed purchase in 2025. So we'll switch gears and go over into roads and transportation services. Strickland Street, continuation from 2024. So they've made a lot of headway there recently, and Adam was mentioning that they're over today doing some additional driveways and different things like that. But based on the weather, it looks like we're not going to get the surface lift of asphalt on this year. So that's why it's carried over to 2024. So there will be a bit of prep work. There's always some adjustments to catch basins and things like that. So that is also included, but then the final surface lift would go on in 2024. And just a note on the slide there for council that is being partially funded under the ISIP grant project, because it relates to the water main that was replaced and is going up to the standpipe at the top of the hill there. Six line reconstruction. So this is using our own forces and then subcontractor for surface treatment. So this project scope grew a little bit on that. There's some extensive road excavation that was required and ditching and some culvert replacement. So we had definitely a bit of a rainy spring, and the initial period of time rainfall had an impact here, but and maybe some more culvert replacements than anticipated originally. There is some additional ditching and stripping required on the section from the center line heading west to the dead end. And then based on all of these factors, the decision was made to just let the roadbed settle over the winter, definitely with the cross culverts. We'll complete the surface treatment in 2025. And overall, this is just it's a good thing. Basically, go through a freeze thaw cycle, let the culverts settle, and then the surface treatment should be better down the road. Temple Tiny out in Ennismore Ward is another road that's coming on for reconstruction. This provides a bit of an opportunity just to remind council of how a road becomes a construction project versus a maintenance project. So when Adam puts together his budget, he reviews the road preparation before resurfacing. And if the cost to prep the road base, any of the adjacencies on the road base is greater than 50% of the total cost, then it becomes a capital project, and then it's eligible to maybe be funded through reserves or some of those different things. That's when it's deemed a capital project and not just routine surface maintenance. Temple Tiny in particular, some grading issues, the crown's gone in most of the section. So there'll be some work for culverts, crown, and then adding some A gravel and a double lift on top of that. So definitely, I think when it's done, it's going to look a lot different, but that would explain why it's going to be a capital project as opposed to just resurfacing. Carrying on with microsurfacing this year as well, and participating in the county tender. I didn't have a chance to confirm, but I think it's at least the 5th year that we've been doing microsurfacing. It's a relatively new product to come on the market within the last probably 10 years, and we've used it maybe 5. We started it on asphalt roads. I think Skyline was one of the first ones, Concession Street, and then the various ones in Bridgenorth. We've expanded that to use on any of our good quality tire and chip road segments. So we used that out in the Churchill Down subdivision beside the Ennismore Arena and then down along Gifford Drive. It's a relatively low cost preventative maintenance. It essentially seals the top and keeps water from getting into the road base, which is probably the worst thing in terms of that you could allow in terms of functionality of the road. And it extends the pavement surface, but probably by 4 to 6 years. So we've been pleased with this approach so far, and I'm not sure just can't recall what areas are being done this year. Oh, it's down by the area that we're doing for microsurfacing, Vice Bay.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. We did the Waterford subdivision across from the Ennismore Arena this year with microsurfacing, and I believe we went down into Gifford.
Yeah, so for 2025, is it Vice Bay area?
Bisview subdivision, yeah, down off Vice Bay. Yep.
Right. So, yeah. The Ennismore CIP. So yeah, staff are really pleased to bring forward this project. It's been around for a number of years. It's been retooled and retendered and redesigned. Has essentially 3 components that council will see spread throughout the capital budget: roadways, street lighting, and stormwater. The roadway portion includes some road construction, a bunch of sidewalk work, dry stack wall, which will tie in with the rest of the dry stack work that has been done in Ennismore, and landscaping. And then, of course, any of the contract admin or ancillary costs that go along with that. So most of the work is at the intersection of the main 4 corners here at the cross and Ennismore. But also there's a sidewalk that will go down and connect to the Earl Avenue subdivision as well. And on that project, as well as some others that I'll just note here on the slide, if we can partner with the county, we do that. So obviously, we contributed to the Causeway project in terms of the multi-use pathway and the lights, which are now completed. We'll contribute to the Ward Street design in 2024, but then no dollars are going in 2025. We expect, based on our open house that we had over there, that in 2026, we'd probably have to make some more contributions there for some of our CIP works along Ward Street. And in some instances, the county contributes to our projects. And so the CCTV stormwater works a few years ago, and then hopefully finishing up this year. Adam and his crew organized that, and then the county contributed. And the same at the Innismore CIP with respect to the stormwater works right there at that intersection. So yeah, I think we work well together. I know Adam and Doug have a good relationship, and sometimes they take the lead, sometimes we take the lead, but either one contributes as we go through.
And there should be a ribbon cutting coming up soon for the Causeway.
That would be
We
good.
heard about that? Okay. We will.
Mayor,
Yes.
there's some stands there's like 4 or 5 stands that up there that have some like a pizza box on them or something. What are they for? Like the information?
Yeah.
Looks like a pizza box on the top to me, but
It's free pizza.
free pizza.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Didn't you hear? It's for the storyboards.
Yeah.
Storyboards are going,
Yes.
okay, I assume
Yeah.
that, but
So as part of the ribbon cutting, I think they want to launch those storyboards as well.
okay.
So it's got a bit of history about the causeway itself. There's some First Nations history as well. Past projects that have been conducted on the causeway. It'll be good information for the public.
Not so bad.
And I was chatting with Adam about that. He was by the other day. I think that all the lighting is on from the bridge heading west. I think there's still 3 or 4 standards to be completed heading in towards Bridge North. And looked like there was a little bit more activity there today when I was on my way in. So I think that the hoarding fence is gone from the working area at the far end. So I think they're getting ready to pack up here at the end of the month. So switch over to Department 22, roads equipment. So as we've noted in the past and then earlier with the fire department discussion, the market prices of some of these large pieces of equipment have just increased significantly. And with respect to the works fleet, there's lots of different pieces of equipment which are specialized. When you look at sweeping equipment, various brushes on different pieces of equipment. So sometimes it's used seasonally, sometimes it's only used periodically when we're doing road rebuilds or things like that. So there were a number of pieces of equipment recommended by the department, and we just couldn't make the replacement schedule work. And we hadn't yet completed what would be termed as like a fulsome review of all that equipment. So we recommended some delays on some purchases, and then moving ahead with a couple here that you see on the screen. And in a few slides, I'll just go over the rationale of what we're talking about. So the first one is a tandem there to the left. I think it actually is the oldest tandem that we have right now, but we should still get good value for it. It's a 14, and our mechanics take great care of stuff, so should get good value for that. And the other is a pickup, and it's a 2013.
Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Hey, Mary, so what's the criteria? I mean, the truck does look like it's in great shape, and I get maintenance costs as they get older. There's parts that will have to be replaced in that, so how do we evaluate that as far as spending 400 and my glasses, 412, I think it is, versus what kind of return are we going to get on it? And, is it through the life cycle? How do you determine the life cycle, I guess is my question.
Sure. So I'm just gonna skip ahead one slide here. So no problem. So yeah, as I mentioned, there were some pieces of equipment that were recommended to be replaced. I think with respect to your question, we had a bunch of discussion about just because it's the oldest truck, should that be the truck that gets replaced? because in some instances that truck could be an excellent performer, and the one that's 2 years older could be, you know, for lack of a better word, a lemon, right? That we've spent a lot of money on. Yeah, different things like that. Wiring issues in the new trucks these days are really a challenge. So yeah, that discussion will be held throughout 2025. One of the other things that we're looking at is we have typically tried to sell before we get into major repairs. But when we're looking at $400,000 or $500,000 for a piece of equipment, maybe a $40,000 repair isn't a bad way to go if it's going to extend the useful life, right? So that's some of the discussions that Adam and his crew are going to have, and I think Janice and I would welcome those discussions. The other thing that I mentioned before too is on these specialized pieces of equipment is maybe looking at rental versus own. And so if you have a specialized piece of equipment that's going to be used extensively for 2 months of the year, but then essentially sit for the rest of the year, can we justify an expenditure of $400,000, $500,000 versus a rental, which will be higher than what we could typically expect, but then we pay that, and if we have a breakdown, they have to replace it, and then when it's done, it goes back. So those are some of the things that I think we need to have a bit of a rethink on. I will be the first to say it's not going to be operationally easy because it will take additional planning to figure out if we're going to do a section of road. Oh, well, yeah, we always used to have the dozer, right? We could always just go grab the dozer and put it on the float and take it over. Well, we don't have a dozer anymore. Then Adam's got to, or Shuey's got to be ahead of the game to make sure that we can get some of those things rented, right? So yeah, it is going to take some time and effort for the crew to do that. But I think that generally, hopefully answers the question. Yeah.
Sorry, through you, Mary. It's obviously not black and white. I mean, you have to make calls, but you know, that's a good looking truck, but if it's got 300,000 kilometers on it, it's probably time to go before the engine goes, sort of thing. So yeah, it's all things considered, but our staff do a great job maintaining. I think, you know, looking around the county, we've got great looking equipment. So it's a credit to the staff and to Adam and his crew for sure. Yeah.
I think some of the basic maintenance and on the fire trucks as well that we've been doing, just things that you would think about your own vehicle, rust proofing, things like that you typically wouldn't maybe have done on a works truck before, or in a plow truck, things like so. Those things I think are extending the life of them. And yeah, we've got 2 good mechanics over there. They're taking care of the equipment. One of the things coming up here on the hoist is to be able to take care of with our in-house mechanics some of the smaller equipment in terms of pickups and SUVs and those things. So when we reconstructed the new facility next door, we included a large hoist, which is built into the building. It's essentially a crane hoist. That was done for a number of reasons, health and safety, definitely one, taking out the heavy plates that are in the back of the trucks, instead of using chains and a backhoe bucket, those types of things, right? So they could be done a lot safer. But the plan at the time was on the south facing door was to put a small hoist in, similar to what's in the photo. And we've just we've delayed and we've never moved forward with that. So suggesting in this year's budget that we would put that in, and then once again be able to allow the mechanics to do the work on the small equipment that we have in a safer way, be more efficient. And the little picture off to the other side is our township mower, which I'm not sure exactly how old it is, but it's been pushed back so many different years. The mower hooks up to a tractor, and off to the left is just basically a tarp which covers it up so that stuff doesn't come flying out of the mower and go winging across the road. So it's
Ron,
roadside, yeah.
Through the chair, please.
Yeah.
Not a conversation.
Yeah, so that is the roadside mower, and as Adams proposed, there would be a new mower replaced, and then probably a rental of a tractor periodically to allow that to happen. We talked about that slide. I had included this last year, but I just want to bring it up for council again. In some instances, if you don't see a tender going out, it may be because we're doing some cooperative purchasing. First of all, we have cooperative purchasing with the county, and as much as possible, we're in discussions with them if we can do anything. But in this instance, we're a member of Canoe and also Kinetic, and they've kind of went through the whole cooperative purchasing process. They reviewed the competitive bid process online, and then if there's something in there that fits with our needs, then we know that we're getting good value for dollar when we go to actually purchase from them. I think I'll probably get the piece of equipment wrong, but I think we did that with the excavator this year. We go through Canoe with the excavator.
You might have, yes, the excavator and the loader as well.
Right, right. So switching over to streetlights, just a bit of a profile of the specifics. These are the style of CIP streetlights, which will be in Ennismore, and that fits back with our CIP program. Structures is a relatively new asset area for Selwyn. In 2024, we had a budget for Fothergill Causeway. So that will be completed before snow flies. And the good news is that it didn't relate to the actual structure, it related to the guide rails leading up to the structure. So all of our structures are in good shape. There was the biannual report completed in 2024 by the engineer, and really things are still in good shape. The only guide rail that really is noted is the picture here, which is at the 7th line. It was on before as well. And it just says that it should be completed sometime within the next 1 to 5 years. So we're still trying to develop our reserve capacity in this area. So the 7th line's been deferred until 2026 at least. Just a note about that report, it provides great data for us for asset management plan and being able to plan and look ahead. We've been able to come in either under the county engineering review or basically similar pricing to what the county gets. And our engineering firm, Wills, does it. And there's just a different division that handles the structures. And there is mention of some specific maintenance. It's not heavy dollar value, but I think we'll see some of that in the operations budget when it comes forward, but just ongoing maintenance and just ensuring that folks are actually doing a periodic review of these structures in between when the engineer is taking a hard look at them. But at this point, we don't have any large structure work done to be completed in 2025. And since I'd mentioned the last one about asset management, I just want to include this slide as well. The CCTV work, really hoping it can be completed this year as well. It provides great data for us from an asset management perspective. We have a similar report for our sewers in Lakefield, and it just provides invaluable information to take a look at it to see if there's a series of cracks. Is it able to be lined versus replaced, those types of things. So looking forward to getting the details on that work as well. So no major work at this point put in there. There could possibly be a small carryover there, but it is going to be an area that's going to allow us to improve our asset management plan. Talked about the Ennismore CIP. So this is just a bit of a schematic to show the limits of construction in the hamlet. And as I mentioned, most of the underground drainage is county owned, and so they'll be contributing to that work. And that's the heavy underground or works assets up to this point. Over into Parks and Rec capital. So this is a carryover as well, the launch along Water Street. The delay there is with respect to Trent Severn Waterway permit, so we haven't been able to acquire that permit. It should proceed in the spring, so that the goal would be we get the permit, we get the dock in the spring, and that's available for the fishermen and boating community from the start of the year next year. Fisher people, I should say. Anglers, that would be a good one. Thank you, Angie. Some additional Parks and Rec capital. Parks improvements, these would all be, I believe, even the fencing is using our own staff and equipment. So parking lot improvements by the courts in Douglas Sports Center. This would benefit the courts and the beach. And And this is the picture that's on the left-hand side. So as council can see, this is a pretty rudimentary sketch at this point, just to give folks an idea of where it would be. We don't anticipate that there would be a lot of heavy work there because this is really the base of the old West Park Road, if council will recall that. But site conditions will basically dictate the number of spots in the final configuration. So that would be something that between Mike and Adam and Shuey would be over there on site and just try to figure out how to maximize that area. The center photo is at the Robert E. Young complex, and that's the fitness trail. So they found there's just a few areas of the trail. First of all, the trail generally needs a little bit more aggregate added to it. But there's a few areas of the trail that need regrading and some drainage improvements, just so that they can reduce maintenance time. And the third photo is over at the Innismore Waterfront Park, and there's just some of the fencing there that just needs repair. So there's a good chance that both sides of the entrance will be replaced. And then once again, I believe that that's what their own force is. And on all three of those projects, UMP funding will be used to take care of that.
Yes.
Thank you, through Mayor. So in the Innismore Waterfront Park, the signage issues kind of come up recently. Is that a capital item, or is that the information came back that the money was there, it didn't get to it this year? Is that still in capital, or is that operating? The
Referring
trails,
to the trail signage?
trail signage, yeah.
No, it wasn't in as a capital budget item and isn't anticipated to cost enough to be a capital budget item.
So
So
it'll be in the operating.
it'll be
budget
in the
or
work
as you
plan and
move
part of the
forward.
maintenance. Yeah. yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and with a lot of the work over there, we have tried to work with Sir Sanford over the past number of years, quite a number of years, actually. Of course, that got a little bit more complicated and probably slowed down a bit during and post COVID.
COVID,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's had a bit of an impact, but for sure that's where you'll see that
So-
project.
Okay, so it'll be an operating, thank you.
I've got a question here from Councillor Poulos.
Through you, because I'm less familiar with Lakefield, when we had our open house and they were chatting about the struggles with the pickleball courts, one of the main issues they had is that they weren't consulted. So now that we're considering doing this parking lot, and my understanding is this is to help with the traffic issues due to the pickleball use of the courts. Are residents going to be consulted on this, or are we just going ahead with this project?
I think I can answer generally on that. So while the pickleball group definitely was very vocal about the need for it, it has been an ongoing issue there for a number of years because of the beach, because the beach is also very,
Yeah.
very busy. So I think that this will alleviate some parking concerns on both sides in terms of the court and the beach area. And I'm sure that Mike has had discussions with the pickleball group, but I can confirm that when he gets back.
That's not really answering the question.
Yeah.
is it?
Right. I was just gonna say, it's mainly the residents who had the issue with the pickleball
Yeah.
users kind of thing. I just, because the residents live there, I just didn't know if they needed to be consulted on this work. Because that's where they raised their concern previously about us doing the pickleball lines on the tennis courts.
Okay. It's good comment. We would typically, with a capital program, a major one, I don't know if this would classify it, but we would typically provide some notice to the area about it. So I can have that discussion with Mike and maybe see if he can put together a little flyer and just drop that along Hague Boulevard there.
More for you guys, but. Through you, my second question is for the Ennismore Waterfront Park there. I'm just thinking about where these rails are. And with the accessible playground likely going in a couple years, can the work be done together or can it be partnered in some way? I'm just not sure if we could save money there. Because I'm just wondering, I don't know, I'm just spitballing because I know if you do this work ahead of time, I'm just hoping it doesn't impact later work with the accessible playground, which is further into the park.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, once again, I can just make Mike aware that I think that this is replacement of existing, so I don't think that it should negatively impact that. And I think that the other work will, while the Optimist Club will be involved, there's probably a good chance that that would be involved with the actual playground company that's going to be doing some of that work, right? So, but no, I can make Mike aware of that too.
Thanks.
Actually, from the look of it, replacement, well, I'm sure make it look a lot better. It's in pretty bad shape.
Good much.
Oh, Counselor Boyko.
Just a comment through you, Mayor Sennis, to Councillor Coulis's question. This parking area that you see beautifully donated with it will not only help with the pickleball, the parking for that, it will get all of the cars off Hague Boulevard that have been parked on there. So that's one. As Lane mentioned, it will take some of the overflow of the parking from the beach, which is right there. And also when there's events in the Marshland Center, parking is the premium. And so it'll do there. So it's more than just, will address more than just the pickleball.
Good
So,
point.
yes, thank you.
Okay. On to library services. So the library board has the ad hoc committee, first of all, looked over the proposal. Then the ad hoc committee has looked at that again with respect to some space requirements at the Ennismore branch. And the board approved the capital program at its last board meeting. So we're just bringing that forward to be incorporated into the budget. The majority of all of this is being paid for through the reserves of the library board. And I just wanted to make the point because last year council had been advised that the board was really jumping on board the fundraising. And so they are going to continue additional fundraising this year with the second year of the golf tournament. Definitely some lessons learned, and Sarah's been meeting with the group, and yeah, they're quite eager to get going. It's going to be incorporated, I think. Can we say that? Yep. So it's going to be incorporated with Shamrock Festival this year. And as you can see by the poster, really good community support from a lot of longstanding folks there in the community. So a reminder that the fundraising that's done by the board and all fundraising by the library actually benefits enhanced services and programming. So it doesn't replace base funding, but it just show that the board's kind of on board and moving forward to put their money where their mouth is, essentially.
And Lane, can you just comment on the numbers that are in here for the library, because they are small compared to, yeah.
I can. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah. So, yeah, when you look at some of the individual sheets in the library, they at a corporate township level, they wouldn't qualify for capital items. Like if you look at a change table, a chair, different things like that. But it's because of the purchasing policy for the library. So it's a smaller threshold for all those things. So that did come up at the board table, and it's been on my work plan for a number of years to up the procurement bylaw for the township. And so we're just trying to save some effort so that once I get that done for the township, then we'll take that back to the library board and look at revamping some of those levels as well. So even though this is all being paid for through reserve, the numbers are very small individually. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our pie chart showing at this point 3.75 million in investments, because the pending hasn't been included in this. It is a good visual though, because it shows that the majority of our investments are in essentially solid infrastructure, roads and fleet, lighting and stormwater, those types of things. And then of course, followed up by the fire department with another big investment area. So if you looked at those things, roads, equipment, other infrastructure and fire, that's about 3/4 or more of our capital budget. And just to comment on studies, so some of our forward-looking studies and reports. The placeholder amount for asset management's been in for the last few budget years. In some years, it's used for data collection. In 2025, it will probably be used for consulting support, but it could be used in smaller amounts, not the full 50, but smaller allotments to support data gathering, financial templates, maybe some rewrites of levels of service, that type of thing. It is an eligible expense under OCF, the provincial funding, and that's how it's proposed that anything there would be paid. And it's important to have some funding available because our deadline is July 1st for the next steps of our asset management plan. And I did have some questions about it, so I'll just mention that we have had that position around to support asset management since about 2022, 2023. I've had 2 staff members come in and go away. It's currently been vacant for some period of time. And so at this point, it's pretty much back on me to finalize with Janice's help and the management team. We do have, as council would have saw, a posting out right now, but we haven't had any candidates going to come forward. So we're looking at maybe retooling that and looking at it a different way as part of our organizational review. But hopefully we can at least meet our legislative requirements and levels of service review by July 1st, and then it's just a matter of improvement after that.
Councillor Boyko.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sanis. Yeah, that was the one of the questions that I sent to Lane, and I appreciate Lane you responding with that. I'm happy to hear that you're going to be looking at this with respect to the management team, since we haven't had any response to the ad. The July 1st deadline is coming, and it's a really important legislated necessity that we have this plan in place. So will there be a time, and will that time come soon, where you simply say, we're not going to hire an asset management person. We're simply going to spend the 50,000 or around and hire a consultant to get the job done?
Yeah, so I think because asset management is going to be here to stay, I think it's very important that it isn't just a study that's a one and done. So that's been our approach, is to try to encourage all the asset classes to be reviewed by the management team and to be incorporated into just how we do business. So there will be an update coming to council in December as part of the impacts meeting. And then while the first quarter of the year is always heavy for finance, we do know that we have to start getting that together. This 50 could support aspects of levels of service and how we present that to council. And as more and more municipalities get their plans approved and before council, I'm not adverse to go out and grabbing those plans and bringing them back and saying that I like that approach. What our plan that we have in place already is very much based on our consultant, Watson, and their format. So they're the type of people that I could reach out to for a small RFP to help finalize certain aspects of it. As long as we have a plan that meets the core requirements and puts together a financial plan and a level of service for discussion, then I think we will meet our deadline by July 1st. And then it's just a matter of improvement and improvement. We have a chart now, which is called a confidence and completeness chart. We went through the process. We are making improvements on it, but it does point out areas that we still need more work to be done. And that has been before the ministry now for 2 years, I think, and I haven't received any negative comment back on that yet. So I think it's the type of thing that it's going to be here to stay, and not just setting it up once, but ongoing data management as we make these changes, say for the facilities, for instance. So as an HVAC system gets swapped out, we need to make sure that we've got new data on that, and we're going to be able to track that. As a roof gets completed, we need to be able to do that. So a combination of all the departments. I could see Alex and Adam in water, sewer, and roads, Jerry in the facilities area, Madeline probably helping out with accounts payables and that in my department, and then ideally this position doing a lot of that type of organization.
Right. I see. If I could have one follow, something that council passed a motion several months ago. I can't remember exactly when. We passed a motion saying that we would like to see a list of all of the properties, not all the assets, but all the physical properties in the township. And so I know that is a project that is going on. Would that be a part of what this consultant or this person would put together? Or is that a separate project because it's simply property and not assets with respect to buildings and things?
Yeah, so we're treating that as a separate project. It wouldn't be something the consultant would do. I think that we're really close to bringing that before council. Not probably the 26th, but hopefully this year. So, and that report should be available before council.
As a separate. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. They have been meeting, and of course, all municipalities have to have their asset management plans in by that date. It's been said that more than half of the municipalities are not going to have them in on time. And what is going to be created is the way the province has this set up, you pretty much have to use a consultant, and there aren't going to be enough consultants around to be able to complete these reports. So what could happen is if the province would allow would be to change the formatting so that you could plug numbers in, because every municipality has the same thing they have to go by. If they could do it on their own online, it would remove the necessity of having a consultant go through this. It would simplify things. And so there are right now, I believe that the province is going to be approached to see if that can be done. But I've also heard a rumor that we may be looking at the writ being dropped after Family Day. So we might be in the middle of an election, and that's going to throw a wrench into the works as well. So we'll have to see. Unfortunately, we have to deal with what we're given. So we have to move forward with it. But there are other steps being taken to try and simplify. And yeah, yes.
Yeah, no, I've heard some of the same rumors, obviously, but yeah, I think you've taken the right approach as far as looking at organizational structure again. Does that asset management person, is that a full-time job, or is that a job, as Counselor said, with dealing with property issues or facilities or that sort of thing? So I think it's a good time to look at how that works, because again, I think the organization is growing and you constantly have to relook at how you do things. So I agree 100% with that approach moving forward for sure.
Okay, I just realized here, I've got a couple of slides to go on here on grants and to review that, but Department 45 isn't, I don't have my slide deck, but it's parks and recreation equipment. So there are two pieces of equipment that are outlined in that. So the parks 3/4 ton. So that's the one truck that the Parks Department has, which is a 3/4 ton or 2500 series truck. And it's the one that tows around the larger trailer that they have with the watering tank and different things like that. So that's it's been reviewed and put off in the past, but Mike feels we could go ahead with that and get good value out of the trade-in as well. And the other unit is another one of our Toro zero turns, and this is the Innismore unit, which is a 2016 unit that would be replaced. We have it once again got good value to those when we put those on the market too, and both of those are being replaced from the Parks and Rec equipment reserve.
And the garage generator.
Yeah, so anything down in that pending area, we're still waiting for feedback on that. So the generator is definitely still down in that pending area, and we haven't heard back on that grant yet. Yeah.
Yes.
So that garage generator is in the pending. Was there ever thought of generator for for Hall 1, Fire Hall? They have a portable generator right now that's plugged in right now.
Yeah, two on wheels right now, Ron. Yeah,
So they are portable. They're not
so
a permanent installation.
if needed, all the halls will have hookup. All 4 doesn't need as big, so there's a 5,000 watt generator up there. So all the rest could be hooked into the 2 mobiles. Yeah.
Okay, so just to go through a little bit of the grant details, since we do have confirmation at this point. So the UMP grant in 2025, a little over 1.1 million. This is an increase of $52,000, which just seemed to, when I started looking at possible funding, just seemed to evaporate. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's good to have a bit more money there. The OCEF grant wasn't really a surprise. It decreased. It seems that over the last number of years, OCEF money is going more to urban centers and less to rural. Just seeing that across the board. And then, of course, there's a bunch of pending grants down in that could impact the consolidated budget, but we'll report separately on that if we do get to the consolidated budget, and I have some approvals on that. And from a federal perspective, a bit of good news there too. The Canada Community Building Fund increased almost $25,000. It's the only federal unconditional grant that we receive, and we see that adjustment based on per capita data, which is divided up at a national level. And here's just kind of a quick overview of some of those pending grants. Fixed generator, kiosk signs. This would be another partnership with the county where the county has a red application. The PPE equipment testing and cleaning grant. The bus shelters, and I'd use that as an example before. That's dependent on council's decision on our pilot. Got a couple of applications in for Trees Canada. And the vegetative buffer for Hag Point still outstanding. It's no firm timeline on it, but it's been outstanding for a couple of years, but we remain hopeful on that one. And in addition to these pending ones, when we actually have the full budget package, typically Megan and Angie spend some time on the narrative to put together other possible grants that we may see throughout the year. So that's a quick PowerPoint presentation, an overview of the capital budget. As I mentioned before, the management team's here if there's any additional questions or any detailed questions the council may have.
Right, so before I turn it over to council, thank you, Lane, and to the management team for putting this together. I think it's not complicated. It's pretty straightforward. And it's probably in line with the amount of money that we've had in past capital budgets. Is that not so?
Yeah, I would say that it's maybe a little lighter than some years, but of course, the pending, if they come to fruition, $4 million is in around that number that we typically would have.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all the work you've done on it. Are there any other questions? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, Through Mayor. Yeah, thanks staff again for very comprehensive and a great presentation. Didn't have a lot of questions before I got here, but figured that I had a few once I got here, but
Yeah,
just one.
we noticed.
Just one question with regard to the red, the county's looking at the kiosks, and the county's obviously going through a new economic development plan and rebranding potentially for the county. How is that going to impact? Do you think that will impact the townships? You know, I'm thinking about the new sign for Young's Point. Does it say Sullivan Township, County of Peterborough underneath, or like, has that been part of any discussion around branding of townships, upper, lower tier? Is that something that's in discussion?
The red grant that the county would be applying for is specific to those kiosk
Yeah,
signs
not
only.
signs, yeah.
Yeah, because in our township, we had 3. I think North Kawartha has one, and maybe Cavan Monaghan. There's a few that are located throughout the county that need to be replaced. But in terms of the overall community branding sign, absolutely. We've talked about that for years. We even had a design, and the design that we're using for the kiosk replacement was a design that was approved through a county program.
Okay.
I think we're the only one that have actually done anything to implement it, though.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Just timing, I guess.
In terms of moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think with Tracy in economic development and her experience with PKED, she's very familiar with that regional design. And I would expect that through the strategic plan that they're planning on doing, that regional signage will probably come up as an initiative.
Great, thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation in front of us, and I would feel we've never had a surcharge before that has been recommended. So I would feel more comfortable in the recommendation that we have, that we add that in so that it's clear what we are recommending. Having full knowledge that when we get the consolidated budget, if need be, it might change. It's not tying us to this. So if I may, Madam Clerk, where it says that council supports the 2025 draft capital budget as presented. I'd like to add, including the 2% capital levy specific to fire equipment. Is the rest of council okay with that? Okay. Do we need a mover and seconder on that, Madam Clerk? All right. To be included, yeah. All right, so moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That's carried, and the rest of it stands as is before us. Thank you very much, council and staff. Oh, we're not done yet. Hello. So there's no consent items, and is there any other new or unfinished business? Seeing none. We have a bylaw, Madam Clerk.
Just 66, the confirming bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor, that's carried. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Henry, Councillor Koulis, that is carried. Thank you.
Just for council's information. So for the Enbridge grant, May 5th at 1:30 is a goal.
May?
If it.
May?
I wrote
Next
that down. I said it, December 5th. So John, if you're available, it is December 5th at 1:30 at
December
Fire
fifth.
Hall.